Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. You know what to do by now. We're in the studio. We're live. We want you to get involved in all the comments and the chat. We're going to be talking about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's given an interview at the launch of his book where he's spoken about the Takeover bid and how his bid is still ongoing. He's not given up. He still feels like he's in the hunt for Manchester United Football Club. So we'll be talking about that. Also, Harry Maguire, what's going on with him? Scott McTominay, what's happening with him? Andre Onana, what is going on with that kid? Is he coming to Old Trafford? Are people leaving? Are people coming in? We'll get into all that. So make sure you are joining in as well. If you've not done already, please hit that subscribe button. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers. We got to 700,000. Next stop, 800,000. And with your support, we'll get there sooner rather than later. Loads of people in the chat already. I'm just going to whiz through some of these. Phil Berry, Jacoya Trott, Heaven Soul, Danny Inns, James Kelland, M, Jake Harvey, J5, he says, morning Jay, Glazers out. He says, Qatar in. Do you share those sentiments? Santa Notch in the chat as well, Jamie White. Or do you want to see Sir Jim Ratcliffe? We'll get into that in a minute. First of all, let's talk about Harry Maguire. Yes, everyone's favourite topic of conversation. This is a piece in The Guardian, I believe. I think this might be my old mucker, Jamie Jackson. Yes, it is. It says, Harry Maguire's pay rise makes selling defender harder for Manchester United. Now, when I first read that headline, I was like, Harry Maguire's what? His what? Why has Harry Maguire got a pay rise? That is ridiculous. Now, it's not his fault, but he has a structure in his contract where if Manchester United qualify for the Champions League, which we did last season, he gets a pay rise. He's not alone in that, by the way. I think everyone gets one, or most of them get one anyway. So, yeah, it's in line, it says there, with the rest of the United squad. Maguire was rewarded with a considerable wage rise after last season's third-place finish. Took the club back into the Champions League after Europa League football. This concerns me a little bit, this, because you've got a scenario now where we obviously overpaid for Harry Maguire. He was never worth 80 million. It's not his fault. Again, you can blame him for a lot of things. You can't blame him for how much money Leicester received for him or United paid for him. But he's obviously, we paid a lot of money. We overspent on him. He's 30 years old. He's just got this pay rise. He's already on big money. He will be one of the top paid defenders or best paid defenders, in the Premier League. So we could be in a scenario here where Manchester United have to sort of pay some money to get rid of him. I think we still receive a fee, but we have to buy out some of his contracts and then receive a fee. All very odd, but this is where we're kind of at. Now, in this article as well, it goes on to say about sales. It says there, you can see the manager is also prepared to sell Fred. I think some of the figures that were quoted here, yeah, it says here, we'll start with Maguire, sorry. It says Maguire, who cost 80 million, could bring in 30 to 40 million, given his age, declining form, and the 2 years left on his contract. I think that's ambitious. Maybe he can. I mean, yeah, it could happen. I don't know. Part of me feels like, I think I've said it in the past, yeah, we could maybe get 30, 40 million for him because there's still a lot of teams he'd walk into. But then when you look at the contract situation as well, that makes me worried a little bit. You've also got there, it says Fred, who at 30 with a year left on his deal, may draw about 30 million. I think you're going to get 20 million for Fred. Fulham were interested in him, weren't they? I think he'd be a good move for him. It also says the 21-year-old Anthony Elanga is also for sale and has terms until 2026. So he could draw about 30 million. I feel like that's ambitious for Elanga, you know. I like Andy Elanga, and I think it's been a bit of a shame the way his career's panned out at Manchester United. He just wasn't handled well at all. He should have been brought in gradually, and we maybe could have nurtured him into a proper Manchester United player. But I think what happened was he came in, he scored some goals, and he just got thrown in. And he got thrown in at a time when his form had deserted him, but he kept getting played anyway. And do you remember this? There was a situation, I think, where there was rumours for the derby at the Etihad under Ralph Rangnick that Elanga was getting the nod ahead of Ronnie, and that's why Ronnie had spat his dummy out. And I know he said, he had a hip problem, whatever it was. That was the reason he'd gone back to Portugal, but there was rumours that it wasn't that. There was also, not just rumours, facts that he was getting picked at one point ahead of Marcus Rashford. I know, again, Marcus's form had dips, but it still seemed like a bit of a strange one when you've got a player who you know is Premier League quality and has scored lots of goals for United in the past, and a kid who's up and coming is up and down, and you're just throwing him in, week out. I don't like the way we handled it. Anyway, 30 million for me seems a bit ambitious. I think you're looking at about half that. I think you'd be looking about 15 million for Anthony Langer, get involved in the comments in the chat. Says here as well, Scott McTominay would only be allowed to depart, if United received a considerable offer because Ten Hag regards the midfielder as a valuable squad member. Say now, if you get rid of all those players, could raise about 100 million. I think there's Anthony Martial as well, is probably in that mix just somewhere along the line. What do you think? Do you think that's realistic? Do you think United could do that? We know we need more players. We want Andre Onana, the goalkeeper. I'll get to that in a minute. Also, Atalanta centre forward Rasmus Højlund. The thing with those players as well is you're getting him from Inter and you're getting him from Atalanta. I don't see a swap deal on the horizon there. I mean, it'd be good if you could do that, but I don't think Inter particularly want one of our players, even though in the past United players have done well there, and I don't think Atalanta would want anyone. I think it'd be cash. They'd both want money. So if we have to sell to buy, we're going to have to shift some players on, and I don't know if those figures that Jamie's got there are overly ambitious. Let me know what you think. I'm going to get into some of the comments because I'm interested to hear what you guys have got to say. Aaron Oudman says, Mount will be proper class. I'm buying into this Mason Mount signing, you know. The more I think about it, the more I hear from Chelsea fans who are fuming, the more I like it. Excuse me. Santa Notch says, unless we get a new central defender to bolster the squad, I don't see Harry going anywhere. So he's saying he doesn't see that happening. At one point, it looked like we were in for Kim Min-jae. He's now basically a Bayern Munich player. I think he's had half his medical. He's having the other half today. We've been linked with a couple of defenders, but nothing major. I think the biggest one was Kim Min-jae. I've not seen anything where I go, oh, yeah, I really think that deal's going to happen. Also, on the Harry Maguire front, I get your point about, unless, you know, I don't see Maguire going anywhere, but from Maguire's point of view, he was sort of, what was he, fifth choice at one point last season? Because you had Victor Lindelof, you had Lisandro Martinez, you had Raphael Varane, and you had Luke Shaw was getting in ahead of Harry Maguire at centre-back. Luke Shaw, who's a left-back, was getting in ahead of Harry Maguire, which was a little bit bizarre, but was not bizarre. Deflating, I should say, if you're Harry Maguire, seeing someone who's not even a centre-back getting in ahead of you. Bizarre's the wrong word, because it actually made a lot of sense, because I thought Luke Shaw did a very good job at centre-back. But you've got to look at that and you go, if you're Harry Maguire, and if you've got aspirations of carrying on your England career as well, do you need to move on? Because if you're going to be fifth choice or fourth choice at best at Manchester United, only going to get games when players are injured or out, or when you get used in sort of lesser games, if that's even a thing anymore, because most games are all pretty much all important, then I don't know, maybe you think it is time to move on. And I think there'll be a lot of teams that come in for him. I think there'll be a lot of Premier League teams that come in for him. I think he can still do a job in most Premier League teams, Harry Maguire. I think he's not United class, but that doesn't mean he's not good enough for the Premier League. I think he walks into teams like, even decent teams like Aston Villa and Spurs. I think they'd have him. Make sure you are hitting a like button. What is this like paltry likes we've got here? Let's get to 200 likes. Smash a like, as they say. Nathan says, just joined, what have I missed? Not much. We've just been talking about Harry Maguire, how Manchester United may struggle to move him on because he's just had a pay rise because Manchester United qualified for the Champions League. Jake Harvey says, did Phil Jones retire or could we get him on a free? Nice. You never, mate, strange things happen with this club. You never know sometimes, do you? Let's talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe anyway. So he gave this interview. I think it was on his a book launch that he's been doing. He launched a book called Grit, Rigour and Humour, the Ineos story. Grit, Rigour and Humour, as we say in Manchester. It's an interesting title. Anyway, he's been speaking about the Manchester United takeover. He did say there's NDAs, so I can't go into too much. But he did talk about, I mean, he says that, we've got it in the Mirror, and they've quoted the Sun, hashtag don't buy the Sun, that's why I won't put them on the screen. He says, I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't say too much, but there is still a process, and we are in the process. He added, we have a good offer and we have met with the Glazers a couple of times. We have had good discussions with them. We would still very much like to do it and we would be doing it for the right reasons. But in the end, it's their decision, not our decision. So how do you read that? Do you feel that that's Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying we're still in it? Do you feel there's an element of Sir Jim Ratcliffe going, we'd still like to do it, but don't know what's going to happen? I don't know. It's how you interpret that, innit? I don't sort of think it tells you too much one way or the other. Some people look at that and go, well, that's him almost conceding defeat. Others may look at it and go, well, that's him believing he's going to win. So it's very, very difficult to gauge just what that means and also to gauge where we're up to. Most of the reports have indicated that Sheikh Jassim's bid, the Qatari bid, is the front runner. That is in the lead. That is what most of the reports have been sort of pointing towards. We've seen it so many times over the last few weeks. Basically, if you don't know, I'm amazed, but what happened was it looked like Sir Jim Ratcliffe was in pole position to take over. Sheikh Jassim came in with his 5th bid. That put him at the front. There was also this talk of him saying, right, that's my final offer. There's no negotiating after that, or I'm not going to come in with another bid. I think that's not wholly accurate. I think there is a case of that would be his final offer, but there is still some negotiations going on, whatever that means. However, now you've got Sir Jim coming out with this, and it seems that it's still open to interpretation. There's also, as if all that wasn't enough, there's also the idea or the argument or the stories or the rumours or whatever you want to call it being put forward that the Glazers are looking of a way to stay. Now, one of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offers apparently is that he would allow them to stay for a couple of years. He would be in control. He would have the Class B shares or whatever the class shares are that let you vote. They would keep the other shares. Yeah, he would have the Class B shares, which is the voting shares. It's to control the club. They would have some other shares. Then they would leave in a couple of years. But the idea is if the value of Manchester United increases, then their stock value increases. So when they sell those shares in a couple of years, they'd have to sell them. Then they'd make more money than if they sold. Now, you following me? I hope you are, because I'm doing my best. Now, the other sort of offer from Sir Jim apparently is he just buys out the Glazers. Now, the fly in the ointment in that one is that, according to recent reports, people that own the other shares, the 31% that isn't the Glazers, are unhappy because what they're saying is, well, he's just going to come in and buy the Glazer shares. What about us? We're not going to have that. There's been talk of legal action to stop that from happening. There's also been talk that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has had to go to the board to convince them that this deal can work. Who knows? We know that Sheikh Jassim's offer is for 100% of the club. You can see it there. Sheikh Jassim wants to purchase 100% of United and clear off their outstanding debt, thought to be worth more than 500 million. I think it's more than that. I think it was 700 million, wasn't it, the debt, last time we heard from the recent financial reports. It's believed Ratcliffe would prefer to buy a controlling stake in the club and keep the Glazers on board. So, there is that. Now, I've said this all along and I'll continue to say it. I don't think either bid is ace. There's flaws with both bids. And I know there's a lot of people that prefer Qatar. There's some that prefer Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer to keep the Glazers on worries me. I don't want the Glazers staying on at Manchester United. However, them being on and not having control is better than them being in control. I admit that. I'm not completely oblivious to that one. I don't want, and it looks like it is to me anyway, Sheikh Jassim's bid is the Qatari state bid. I'm not a big fan of state ownership of football clubs, and that's nothing against Qatar. I don't want any state owning Manchester United, personally. You may disagree, that's fine. I can't bother getting into all the ifs and buts, and I think we all want what's best for Manchester United Football Club at the end of the day. It's just which is the best bid for that. Neither of them are great, in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with either of them, because 1 minute it looks like it's Sheikh Jassim, the next minute it looks like it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe. This could be, I don't know, throwing in the towel. It could be a man who's got a bit of confidence that sooner or later he's going to be the new owner of Manchester United Football Club. He said quite a few things. I'm going to get into your comments in a minute as well about just if he did take over. He also was asked about, he also said, I don't like throwing money away or losing money. It doesn't make me happy at all, but we aren't there to make money out of it. If it's a really good asset, it will increase in value over time. Is that his way of saying, look, to the Glazers, if you take my bid where you stay on with shares, the value goes up and you make more money? I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but it seems like that could be a little signal to the Glazers, a little nudge and a little, reminder. Look, you go with me, you're going to get more money in the long run. He was also asked about Old Trafford. Would he rename it the Ineos Stadium or whatever? And he said, God, no, that would be heresy. So he's saying some things there, which, again, it's all open to interpretation. He mentioned the fact there's an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. He can't go into it too much. So I don't think you're going to get him coming out and going, I'm going to be the next owner of Manchester United. I am 100% confident that is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And also, he's not coming out and said, I'm backing away from this bid. And so some people have asked him to because they want Qatar to take over. I think we're just in this sort of limbo that we've been in for the past, 7.5 months since the Glazers did their statement about strategic alternatives for the ownership of Manchester United. Still waiting to see what happens. Jay Frasconi says, Jay, If you want to get a real wake-up call, read over the squad list from 2007, 2008 and compare it to today's list. It's shocking. Erik ten Hag has to be supported to build a squad of that quality. That's job number one of any new owners. I agree. I think if you look at that in 2008, what has happened since 2008 at Manchester United has been this weird sort of almost gradual decline. And I think that might sound odd because we've won titles since then and we've been to 2 Champions League finals since 2008. But I think little by little, you've just seen certain things going wrong at Manchester United. And I think it all points back to the Glazers' ownership. And you've seen how once Fergie left, those issues were just exacerbated. Us not being strong enough in the transfer market, us not having a long-term plan, us not having the facilities that perhaps we should have. Other teams, mainly Manchester City, from 2008, getting those new owners in and going from the noisy neighbours to a team that's just won a treble, albeit with 115 charges hanging over their head. We've seen other teams. Arsenal have gone big. Arsenal have spent £500 million, I think, under Mikel Arteta. They're doing bits. Liverpool, we've seen them win a Champions League during that time. We've seen them win a Premier League. Obviously, they've struggled last season and long may that struggle continue. But they've started spending money again in this transfer window. We have to reinvest in this squad. We have to back this manager. And the trouble we've got with these owners is they're just not up to that job. They're just not up for it. And people go, well, last summer we spent money. And I'm sick of hearing that because last summer we lost a load of players as well. We lost our most expensive player ever in Paul Pogba at the time anyway. He left. Nemanja Matic left. Cavani left. Those are players that needed replacing. You might not rate him, but they needed replacing. We also just finished 6th, so we had to reinvest in the squad to get back into the Champions League and challenge for silverware. 2 things, by the way, that Erik ten Hag did at the first time of asking, despite the fact he lost his top scorer from the previous season in Cristiano Ronaldo and was forced to replace him with a free signing or a loan signing from Burnley, who went on to score no Premier League goals. So that just shows you the job that Erik ten Hag had to do and what he did as well. I have to think he deserves more credit. He has to be back properly. We've brought in Mason Mount. That's a good start, but there has to be more than that. We need a goalkeeper and we need a striker. The fact that Manchester United going into this season, I know we've got a couple of months yet, but we don't have a recognised goalkeeper who we think can do the job, and we don't have a recognised striker, an out-and-out number 9 who we can rely on. It's just farcical. It really is. Right now, we should be in a position where we're adding to the squad and tweaking it, building on last season, not having to fill 2 essential positions in your starting 11. That is insane. And when you see stories like I mentioned earlier about the fact that we're going to struggle to get rid of certain players because they've got big contracts, it just makes you even more disheartened. Anyway, I don't want to be all negative. Let me know what you think about anything. PR Ram or Pram says, like the vid. Tim Collins says, no Glazers, no debt, full sale only. Andrew says, Sir Alex wanted to leave before 2013. He knew the Glazers were terrible at football decisions. They are. Squawk says, late joining Jay, hope you're well. Thank you, brother. I am good. Jake Harvey asked this question. Do you need state ownership to compete in modern football? Seemingly unlimited funds seem to go a long way in 2023. It's competitive versus moral high ground. The one sort of twist in that is this FFP situation. Because City have got around it in ways that are now looking like they might not be legitimate. Chelsea have done it with these long-term contracts and these big deals to players that, for me, aren't good enough. How do United get around FFP if we do have new owners who can spend loads of money? Because apparently that is a thing, and we'd have to work it out. But I'll leave that to the financial experts to pick the bones through that one. Should we talk about Scott McTominay? Hit the like button, please. Hit the like button, not our like button. Hit the like button, please. Over 1,000 people watching. We've still not got to 200 likes. Come on, people. Mourinho interested in McTominay reunion at Roma. I mentioned earlier that players, were trying to get rid of the likes of Harry Maguire, Anthony Martial, Anthony Elanga. McTominay is someone that the manager is open to keeping. I don't think he's definitely someone the manager wants to get rid of. However, Jose Mourinho, who has been linked with Mason Greenwood as well recently, is interested in bringing Scott McTominay to Roma. Would make sense. I think Scott McTominay could do a job there. Mourinho obviously knows him. He gave him the inaugural Jose Mourinho Player of the Year award, didn't he? About 10 minutes before the end of the reward ceremony, apparently he decided he was unhappy with the fact that the goalkeeper kept winning Player of the Year. So he went and got the staff to go and get a vase quickly and gave Scott McTominay the manager's Player of the Year, which is a new invention he just came up with on the spot. Yeah, could see that happening if, and it's a big if, Erik ten Hag was willing to let him go. We're still not sure he is. Let's talk about Onana. Andre Onana. He looks like the most likely next signing for Manchester United. It says here, we spoke about this a little bit last night in Transfers Live. It says Inter Milan sporting director Piero Asilio has suggested that the Italian club has turned down a bid from Manchester United for goalkeeper Andre Onana. Just go down to the quote there. He said, as of today, that was last night, or yesterday, sorry, the proposals are not at the level we expected. Right now, Onana is Inter's goalkeeper. He's one of the strengths of the team, and with strong players, we'd like to move forward. If opportunities arise, we'll evaluate them, but today, they haven't arrived or they don't meet our expectations. In this moment, he's our goalkeeper, and Andre is a key player for us. We'd like to keep him, then we'll see what happens. We wait for him on July the 13th for pre-season. We'll have to wait and see what happens. We need a goalkeeper. It looks like Andre Onana is top of the list. Inter want around 50 million, I think. United trying to get him for 39 million. Let's see what happens there. Scott Hazel says they owe us 47 million from the Lukaku deal. Well, there you go then. If they owe us 47 million from the Lukaku deal, then surely a deal can be made. Jake Harvey said Scott McTominay would probably make Serie A Team of the Year. Witterbird says, good morning, lovelies. And Jay, thumbs up. Thanks a lot, Witterbird, for the gift in the memberships last night as well. Big shout out to you. Jay Cowder says, Dean out for 30, Onana in for 50. It makes a lot of sense. Dean Henderson on the... I don't know what's happening with Dean Henderson. It looks like he might be staying. Not 100% sure he is going to go. But you saw the kid from City, I think, went to Burnley for 19 million. Their young goalkeeper. Dean Henderson, you think we could get 25 million for him? I think so anyway. You might disagree. Let's talk about Amad Diallo. United did a tweet. Amad is raring to go. Normally I wouldn't bother with tweets from Manchester United Football Club without things like that. I think they're almost meaningless. But it's just, I thought it's a good sort of topic of conversation because Amad Diallo had that great spell, didn't he, at Sunderland last season. 14 goals, I think it was, in the Championship. Did really well. He's still only young. Some people, myself included, think he might have a future at Manchester United. Now might be the time to bring him back into the squad. Could he feature for Eric Ten Hag next season? What do you think? Do you think Amad Diallo could be someone we bring in and he rotates? He's a different option. Or do we send him out on loan again? Is it time to give him maybe Premier League experience on a loan move? I'm sure there's plenty of Premier League clubs that would have him on loan. We just spoke about Dean Henderson went to Forest, didn't he, last season? I think someone like Diallo, who's a young, exciting player who can get you goals, I think there's plenty of Premier League clubs that would have him. Or is it time to bring him into the Manchester United squad, into the fold and rotate? Let us know what you think. It's an interesting one with Diallo because there's still a little part of me that feels Eric Ten Hag isn't hugely convinced. I don't know why that is. I don't know. Call it a hunch. Let us know what you think. Loads of people in the comments, mainly talking about Onana and what's going on there. We'll have to wait and see. Scott Hazel says Scotty is hit and miss. He can be great. Scored about Scott McTominay. Andrew says we need players at the back and we need him. I don't know he's talking about there. Sorry. Jacoya Trot says another loan without the drama that will come with another rebuild season. KC says re-FFP. If the Glazers had sold up before now, we'd have more to spend. The fans are funding all our signings and the debt. No debt equals more to spend. Jay Cowder says, I think, talking about Diallo, he needs one more loan in the Premier League. Yeah, I kind of get that. I think that would be a decent shout to give him another loan move in the Premier League, though. I don't think he needs to go back to the Championship. I think we need to see if he's a Premier League player, if he does go out on loan. So loan into a Premier League club. Let's see what he's about. Hopefully he can do the business there. Come back to Manchester United and absolutely smash it. If you've not done it, smash a like, as the kids say. Also, if you've not done, hit that subscribe button. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers, and with your support, yes, we can do it. I'm going to wrap it up there. We're going to be back later on. We've got Chris Wheeler coming in from the Daily Mail. We're going to be chatting to him about all the latest Manchester United news, so make sure you check that out. That's going to be at 4 o'clock. That's going to be live, so you guys can get involved in the comments and the chat for that one. We'll also be hearing from Stephen Howson later on today as well, because we need our fix, don't we, from Steve. I've been Jay Moyer. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.